Lewis Hamilton's big move to Ferrari wasn't something he decided quickly. He thought really hard about his future with Mercedes. Now that everyone has calmed down, there are some things that fans and experts might have missed a few months ago. These things show the truth about how Hamilton felt about Mercedes and why he stopped being so loyal to them. The most important thing is that Hamilton signed his contract without even trying out the 2024 Mercedes car called the W15 in Bahrain. That's where all his questions would have been answered. But he signed the contract just a couple of days after, saying he tried it on a computer simulator. So how did Hamilton feel about the W15? And what does this mean for Mercedes as they try to build a championship-winning car without Hamilton helping them? One of the biggest shocking moves in the sport has now calmed down and we can look at things with a clear head. So let's start with the most obvious clue about why Hamilton left Mercedes for Ferrari: how well the W15 performed. Hamilton said he did some simulator work on the W15 after getting feedback from Mercedes simulator driver Anthony Davidson. Anthony said the car finally feels like a real car. Everything coming from the team sounded positive. So the last thing they and Hamilton expected to see was a car that didn't work as well as it did in the simulator. Toto Wolff tried to prove this theory wrong by saying that Hamilton tested the car after signing with Ferrari. But since the seven-time world champion said he wanted to stay with Mercedes for many more years just a couple of weeks ago, this is kind of hard to believe. And if Hamilton saw something wrong in the simulator, then it must have been a really big mistake from the team. We must not forget that this is the same simulator that failed to warn the team about the big bouncing problem back in 2022. Hamilton very likely lost faith in the W15 as soon as he sat in its computer version. But that's just the beginning of the story. The 2024 cars will be pretty much the same ones that teams will drive in 2025. This is because all the teams will be paying lots of attention to the new rules starting in 2026. So besides the W15 not being the car Hamilton wanted, he could have easily put two and two together and realized that Mercedes might not be competitive in 2025 either. This was sort of like a safety measure he took when he signed his contract with the team. He left a rule that could be used for him to leave and join another team starting in 2025. Unfortunately for Mercedes, that rule has now been used and Hamilton will have to drive a whole season in a car that he doesn't feel works for his needs. Yes, Wolff said that Mercedes will treat both drivers fairly in the 2024 season. And there's always the example of 2006 when Fernando Alonso announced before the season started that he'd be leaving for McLaren in 2007. The team still went on to win a championship together. However, what Hamilton is facing with Mercedes right now is much different. His move to Ferrari shows a lot about where his priorities are. So what can Mercedes do right now to save what can be saved? They need to make sure important information and people don't get transferred to Ferrari. Hamilton will very likely not be allowed to visit the factories in Brackley and Brixworth sometime around the summer break. The same situation would happen to other staff too. But with such strictly controlled rules, and with Hamilton being such an important part of what happened with Mercedes in the past couple of years, I doubt there will be many things that Mercedes could hide from Hamilton. He already knows everything he needs to know. Looking at the unexpected move he made, he definitely wasn't the first person to leave Mercedes for Ferrari in the past couple of years. The path was already made by the former head of vehicle performance at Mercedes, Loic Serra, who didn't agree with the approach that the ex-technical director Mike Elliott took when developing the W13 and W14 cars in certain directions. Hamilton also asked for more responsibility when it came to how well the W15 performed. So, it's safe to say that just like Serra, he was unhappy that nobody on the team seemed to listen to what he had to say. All of the technical staff changes came a bit too late for the Brackley-based team. But according to Wolff, there has been a lot of science behind developing the W15. The input from drivers is definitely not the final thing that makes the car competitive, although it must not be undervalued under any circumstances. Talking more about Hamilton's departure from Ferrari being connected to testing the W15 in the simulator, Wolff said, "First of all, the car has been developed by the team with a lot of science and a lot of data. The driver gives us guidance on what he feels in the car, and then this gets broken down, and then we decide whether it happened or not. So we must not underplay or overplay how much input a driver has in developing a car. In terms of did we miss anything? No, everything that we are doing with awareness and open eyes. We felt that a longer-term contract would limit our options going forward. So absolutely aware of all the positives and negatives, weighing it up. That is what we decided to do." Hamilton was definitely talking more closely with Sarah before signing the contract with Ferrari. This wasn't only because the Maranello team is the only one with an opening starting in 2025, besides Red Bull, who firmly stated they have no interest in putting Max Verstappen and Hamilton on the same team. It's also because Hamilton shares the same opinion as Sarah, so if Sarah fell in love with the project that Ferrari had in mind, then it's certain that the W15 was nowhere near as good as the car that Ferrari will bring to the track. What's even more important is that the W16, which as I said earlier in this video will be pretty much a copy of the W15, is going to do pretty much the same job as the car in 2024. Trusted technical sources told the media that once Sarah announced his departure for Ferrari, he took a huge part of the engineers working in Brackley with him. So this is expected to happen with Hamilton's departure as well. So it will be some kind of small Mercedes reunion down in Maranello. The real question is, could Mercedes have prevented all of this from happening? According to Damon Hill, Hamilton's expertise definitely determined that there would be a downfall at Mercedes if they continued with this development rate. That's why he made a move similar to the one he made back in 2013. Leaving a dominant McLaren for a team that was struggling with competitiveness in Mercedes. Adding to this matter, the 1996 world champion said, "Hamilton's got an instinct. He's got a racing instinct as to which way the wind blows. I think he may have actually pulled a masterstroke just like he did when he left McLaren and went to Mercedes." Besides making the W15 far more competitive in simulator terms, Mercedes could have done one more thing that would have kept Hamilton satisfied. That is, make him the ambassador of the team. But, as Wolff said, the team felt like a longer-term contract would have obliged both sides to something they didn't want. This hints that even Mercedes didn't have complete trust in Hamilton to be their next champion. Otherwise, they would have acted on this matter like Ferrari did with Charles Leclerc or Red Bull did with Max Verstappen. On top of that, it seems like Hamilton is set to earn $100 million per year with Ferrari. This is definitely a sum that will make him the highest paid Formula One athlete of all time. The question is, will it be worth it in terms of winning a championship? And will Mercedes be sorry that they didn't offer him what he asked for? Reports stated that the 7-time world champion asked for a 5-year contract with Mercedes in terms of driving and then a 10-year contract being the ambassador of the team and promoting the business in all ways possible. This was expected from Hamilton, considering the fact that he successfully runs an organization that fights for the rights of minorities known as Project 44. He also required Mercedes to pay a certain percentage of his salary to this organization. But regardless, this is all in the past now and Hamilton is focused on the future. It's a future that he's been warned might not be the brightest by Martin Brundle. According to the Sky F1 commentator, the issues at Ferrari were not the fault of the driver lineup. Although driver mistakes were present from time to time, we could often hear how the team messed up its own tactics and made upgrades that just seemed to have taken them in a downward spiral. Talking more about Hamilton's move to Ferrari, something that was present as a rumor in the F1 world ever since May last year, Brundle went on to say, "With my Sky F1 hat on and my F1 hat on, I would love to see Lewis in a Ferrari and go there. And try and do a Michael Schumacher and win championships there. I think it would be a wonderful story for next year." You would think Hamilton would fix all of Ferrari's issues, but I'm a fan of science as well. They've got a very dynamic young partnership there. Ferrari's problem at the moment is not their driver lineup, it's their car. It's not fast enough, so that's where they need to focus. Lewis Hamilton can't just turn up and sort Ferrari's issues out single-handedly by pressing the throttle pedal and turning the steering wheel. With this in mind, what do you think about Hamilton's move to Ferrari? Do you think he made the right choice? And more importantly, do you think he can cement his legacy by winning the 8th record-breaking championship with the Maranello team? Let us know in the comments below.